6 Stages of Awakening. How to transcend the mind and touch the divine. Most get stuck at number 3. Most people live their entire lives stuck in one narrow level of consciousness, enchained by fear, craving, and emotional rewinds. Imagine thinking your random thoughts and patterns are true freedom, but 97% of humanity is trapped in a hidden psychological cage. There are higher levels of awareness, heart-centered, cosmic, even non-dual states, where suffering fades, connection deepens, and life feels different. Today, I'll guide you through the 6 levels of consciousness, from survival to non-duality. You'll discover where most people stop, where you might be stuck, and how to step beyond your current mindset. Once you see these layers, you can't unsee them, and a whole new landscape of human experience opens up. Welcome to Beyond Reality. Let's begin. Introduction to consciousness layers. Consciousness isn't fixed, it expands. Most people never tap into higher states, not because they're out of reach, but because we're rarely taught they exist. What you currently experience isn't the full spectrum. It's merely the first room in a vast inner house. These 6 levels define everything. How you love, how you suffer, how you search. They create the hidden boundaries that shape your life and also hold the keys to break free. Today's roadmap. 1. Survival consciousness. 2. Emotional consciousness. 3. Rational/intellectual consciousness. 4. Heart-centered consciousness. 5. Cosmic consciousness. 6. Non-dual awareness. Each layer holds discoveries. Each door beyond feels familiar, but the invitation is not to escape being human. It's to meet your humanity with presence. 1. Survival consciousness. This is the foundation of human existence, our oldest operating system. Survival consciousness is wired into us. It's not a flaw, it's evolutionary brilliance. Rooted in the brainstem and limbic system, the most ancient parts of the brain, it's designed with one job: keep you alive. In this state, hunger, fear, pain, and desire drive behavior. Threat detection takes precedence over reasoning. Emotions are fast, strong, and hard to regulate. The nervous system constantly scans for danger, often without your awareness. It's automatic, it's reactive, and for much of human history, it was absolutely necessary. A rustle in the bushes could be wind, or it could be a predator. In survival mode, the brain says, run first, ask questions later. That's how we made it this far. But in the modern world, this ancient system often misfires. Today, the threats are different. A traffic jam, an unexpected bill, a harsh tone in an email, someone ignoring your message. None of these are life-threatening, but to the survival brain, they might as well be. The same circuits that once protected us from lions now respond to deadlines, rejections, and Wi-Fi outages. You feel the symptoms: tight chest, clenched jaw, racing thoughts, shallow breath, snapping at people you love, or freezing, disconnected, emotionally numb. This is survival consciousness. Feels like you're choosing, but really you're reacting. You're stuck in loops, avoiding pain, chasing comfort, fearing change. The hallmarks of survival mode. You make choices based on fear of loss. Whether it's money, reputation, or love, your decisions are dominated by the question: what if I lose this? You're driven by a craving for security. You pursue success not from passion, but from anxiety. The belief is, if I just get enough, then I'll feel safe. Your nervous system is often dysregulated. You wake up tense. You go to sleep worried. You constantly anticipate what could go wrong. And often, this mode masquerades as responsibility. People say things like, speech balloon, I'm just doing what I have to do. But that's not freedom. That's conditioning. That's survival logic speaking, echoing through years of programming. It's a voice that says, play it safe. Don't stand out. Don't trust. Prove yourself. Stay busy. You're only okay if you're in control. None of this is your fault. We've inherited this wiring. Many of us were raised in environments, families, schools, societies that rewarded survival traits. You were praised for being cautious, for working hard, for pushing through. for staying small and not rocking the boat. But there's a cost to staying here too long. When you're constantly in survival consciousness, you lose access to creativity, compassion, curiosity, connection. These functions reside in the higher brain, specifically the prefrontal cortex. But when you're stuck in survival, blood flow shifts away from that area. You literally can't think clearly or empathize as deeply. The world becomes black and white, safe or unsafe, win or lose, me or them. And in that state, the true self becomes buried. You're not acting from choice, you're reacting from programming. So, how do you know when you're in survival consciousness? Ask yourself, am I acting from fear or love? Do I feel like I have agency? Or am I just getting through the day? Is my body relaxed or constantly braced for something? Light bulb if your actions are mostly about avoiding risk, controlling outcomes, or protecting yourself. You're in survival mode. Again, this isn't wrong. It's human. It helped you survive. But it won't help you thrive. Because survival isn't the goal. It's the baseline. It's the ground floor of awareness. It's meant to be transcended. The invitation is not to kill the survival mind. It's to recognize it, thank it, and learn to rise above it. True freedom begins when we stop being dominated by fear and start living from a deeper center. One rooted not in reaction, but in presence, purpose, and authenticity. That's the journey of awakening. And it starts by noticing when you're just surviving so you can choose something more. 2. Emotional consciousness. If survival consciousness is raw and primal, emotional consciousness is its more colorful evolution. Deeper, more complex, but still reactive at the core. This level is governed by the early limbic brain, particularly the amygdala and emotional memory centers. It's not just about staying alive anymore. Now it's about feeling safe, wanted, and seen. Here, the survival instinct begins to wear new clothes. Emotions, stories, identities. At this level, emotions drive decisions, often without us realizing it. We react with jealousy before we understand why. We get angry before we know what's hurting. We fantasize, fear rejection, seek revenge, all rooted in subconscious wounds and unmet needs. The reasoning mind comes later, usually just to justify what the heart already felt. Emotional memory shapes our world. A harsh word in childhood can echo in every argument. A past betrayal can turn future love into a battlefield. The brain remembers feelings more vividly than facts, locking in patterns that repeat even when they no longer serve us. The amygdala hijacks the system, is constantly scanning for danger, especially social danger. Rejection isn't just uncomfortable, it feels like pain. Neuroscience confirms it. Emotional pain and physical pain share neural pathways. That's why a breakup can feel like being stabbed. That's why a harsh comment online can ruin your day. In emotional consciousness, the inner world loops. Old wounds replay. Unmet needs seek fulfillment through others. Emotions override truth and become mistaken for truth. We don't just feel emotions, we identify with them. I'm the anxious one. I'm the angry type. I'm just sensitive. These aren't reflections, they become labels, shaping self-image and behavior. In this state, relationships become battlegrounds, not places of healing. We attract partners who trigger our wounds. We fight to be heard, to be loved, to not be abandoned. But underneath the surface conflict is a deeper cry. See me, choose me, don't leave me. Success becomes a patch for inner emptiness. We pursue achievement not for joy, but to prove our worth. Wealth becomes a shield. Status becomes a drug. It's not that success is wrong, but when driven by emotion alone, it never satisfies. Because the whole isn't in the world, it's in the self-perception. The emotional system becomes a false self. We don't realize we're caught in a performance, reacting to old scripts, defending old pain. We chase sensation, romance, risk, drama, because it makes us feel alive. But often, it just keeps us distracted from a deeper stillness we've never learned to trust. This isn't weakness. It's programming. It's not you, it's the system. A survival machine trying to protect you by overreacting to everything that resembles past pain. But the good news can be transcended. The shift begins not by suppressing emotion, but by watching it. by pausing when the wave hits, by breathing through the intensity, and by learning to say with compassion, I see you, I feel you, but I'm not going to become you again. This is the beginning of emotional maturity, the ability to witness your emotions without drowning in them. First, it's hard. You'll slip, you'll yell, you'll chase, you'll regret. But over time, you build a space between stimulus and response. And in that space, the real self begins to emerge. Not the anxious one, not the angry one, not the performer or the people pleaser, but the one who knows beneath all the layers that you are not your emotion. You are the awareness that sees it. When this realization dawns, even for a moment, you step out of the emotional loop. You stop chasing validation. You stop needing others to regulate your self-worth. You start choosing your responses rather than reacting from pain. This doesn't mean emotion disappears. It means it transforms. It becomes a messenger, not a master, compass, not a cage. And that shift, subtle but powerful, opens the door to a new kind of life. One where you feel fully without being ruled, where you relate with empathy, not neediness, where you choose love not as a fix, but as a truth. This is emotional consciousness, seen, named, and finally transcended. 3. Rational/intellectual consciousness. After the emotional storms settle, many arrive at the mind, a place of order, structure, and logic. Here, the intellect takes the lead. Thought becomes the lens through which reality is organized, understood, and controlled. This is the realm of reason, hypotheses, systems, and data. I think, therefore I am. What can be measured is what matters. If I can name it, I can master it. At this level, knowledge becomes identity. Degrees, credentials, critical thinking, they're not just tools. They become you. Success is defined by mental sharpness. Complexity is safety. Simplicity can feel threatening or naive. And for a while, this feels freeing. Unlike emotion, thought doesn't overwhelm, it organizes. It lets you detach from pain, understand patterns, build logic where there was chaos. But then, a new trap appears. The mind becomes the center of the self. Every moment is filtered through analysis. Why did this happen? What does it mean? What should I do next? Soon, rumination replaces presence. Thought loops spin endlessly. Worry masquerades as planning. You live in a castle of mental constructs, fortified by certainty but disconnected from direct experience. And the voice inside whispers, you are what you know. You are what you can explain. This is the rational cage. It looks like freedom, but it's another identity. You become a collection of theories, frameworks, and facts. Yet somehow, even with all that knowledge, something still feels missing. Because while the mind can build maps, it cannot be the territory. Can explain love, but not feel it. Can model the universe, but not touch unity. Can define purpose, but not live it. Eventually, the system starts to crack. The mind feels exhausted. Purpose feels hollow. Certainty begins to fade. And beneath all the logic, a subtle awareness emerges. There is something beyond thought, a knowing that doesn't need explanation. Presence the mind cannot reach. And that quiet inner call, that longing beyond language, means you're ready. Ready to leave behind the fortress of intellect, not in rejection, but in transcendence. Not to discard the mind, but to place it in service to something deeper. Something the mind alone could never touch. Being. 4. Heart-centered consciousness. This is where expansion truly begins. When the intellect reaches its edge, when analysis exhausts itself, when certainty dissolves, something deeper stirs. The heart awakens. Here, awareness shifts from thinking to feeling, from controlling to connecting. You no longer look at the world as something to dissect or conquer. You begin to feel it as alive, vibrant, and intimately woven into your being. At this level, empathy flows effortlessly. Others' pain resonates as your own, not out of sympathy, but deep resonance. Connection outweighs correctness. The need to be right fades in the presence of authentic presence. People stop being concepts or roles. They become reflections, mirrors revealing your own inner landscape. Judgment begins to soften. Where once you would label, now you pause. Where once you'd analyze, now you listen with your whole being. This is the realm of interconnectedness, a felt sense that we are not isolated minds but threads in a larger tapestry. Goals and actions begin to shift, less about me, more about us. Success is no longer about personal gain, but about shared well-being. Many spiritual traditions describe this as the true beginning of awakening, not because it's the final state, but because it's the first time the ego loosens its grip. It's the first time you no longer feel the need to survive, compete, or prove. You simply begin to be, and that being is inherently healing. In heart-centered consciousness, the world feels intimate, not distant. Relationships shift from transaction to sacred connection. The ordinary becomes profound, a flower, a face, a moment of stillness. But this isn't the end. It's the threshold. Heart awareness is preparation, not completion. It softens the walls of separation. It opens the door to something even more vast, a cosmic consciousness, where even the boundary between self and other begins to dissolve. To live from the heart is not to abandon the mind, but to place it in service of something greater. You begin to sense, I am not just a mind in a body. I am a presence in a living web. I am here not to dominate, but to commune. And from that space, everything changes. 5. Cosmic consciousness. At this stage, the familiar barriers between self and world begin to dissolve. The sharp edges of identity soften until they seem to melt into a vast, flowing whole. You no longer see yourself as a separate entity moving through a static universe. Instead, you feel at one with all beings, as if your existence and the universe's unfolding are inseparable. Time no longer feels rigid or linear, it becomes fluid or even irrelevant. Past, present, and future merge into a living now, where every moment pulses with aliveness and meaning. Mystics, deep meditators, and those who've encountered near-death experiences describe these profound states. Scientific research supports this. Brain scans reveal decreased activity in the default mode network, the area responsible for our habitual self-referential thoughts and ego narratives. The I that once felt so solid now feels like a ripple on the surface of a boundless ocean of existence. In cosmic consciousness, you're not just part of life. You are life itself, moment by moment. This realization is breathtaking, expansive, and deeply humbling. But it also comes with challenges. Spiritual experiences can feel intoxicating, even addictive. As the ego seeks to cling to these highs for comfort or escape, you might feel profoundly isolated, unable to share what you've encountered with those who have not walked this path. Returning to ordinary daily life can feel jarring, even disorienting. Yet these challenges are part of the process, a necessary step toward what comes next. The final leap into non-dual awareness, where the illusion of separation fully dissolves. Cosmic consciousness is not the end, but a vast horizon opening before you. It asks you to surrender more deeply, to rest beyond identity, and to embrace existence as pure, living presence. Here, the heart and mind unite in silent wonder. You realize there is no other. There is only the infinite dance of being. And in this dance, you find your true home. 6. Non-dual consciousness. This is the rarest and deepest state of awareness, beyond subject and object, beyond self and other. Here, there is no one to hide behind, no observer separated from the observed. There is simply being. In this space, the familiar sense of self dissolves completely. The world is no longer something to analyze or grasp. It simply is. Language falters because words divide and categorize, but here all distinctions vanish into one seamless experience. This is not an altered state or a mystical high. It's the primordial ground of awareness itself, the fundamental physics of existence. Pure, raw presence beyond duality. Few can sustain this state for long. Most naturally anchor back into the separate I, the ego's familiar home. Yet, even a glimpse of non-dual consciousness profoundly shifts your perspective. It changes everything about how you relate to life, It's not about escaping or permanently residing in this state, but about integrating its essence into everyday moments. Breathing becomes a conscious act of presence. Cooking becomes a meditation in movement. Even conflict transforms into an invitation to deeper awareness. Non-dual consciousness invites you to see beyond illusion, beyond separation. It dissolves the boundaries that normally fence us in and reveals the interconnected flow of all existence. It's the ground beneath all levels of consciousness, the silent space in which life arises and unfolds. When you touch this depth, your whole being begins to resonate differently. You carry its imprint quietly, humbly, in the midst of ordinary life. This is the subtle art of living awake, fully present, fully alive, fully free. Integration and the real work. Each level of consciousness doesn't erase what came before. It includes it, but with new clarity and freedom. The journey unfolds like this: survival, becoming aware of reactive loops that drive you. Emotional, learning to notice emotions without merging into them. Rational, realizing that thinking is not your identity. Heart, making connection and empathy your center. Cosmic, expanding your sense of self into unity with all. Non-dual, resting in pure awareness beyond separation. But the path is not a straight line, it's a spiral. You return again and again to each level, deepening your understanding and integrating it fully. When emotions arise, let them flow without judgment. When thoughts spin, simply witness them without attachment. When relationships challenge you, meet those moments with an open heart. And always, show up with presence in your daily life. This is the real work, not escaping from life or yourself, but embracing all parts with awareness. Growth is not a destination. It's a continual process of integration, healing, and living more fully awake. If this journey spoke to you, take one step today. Identify your current level. Pause and observe the next time you react. Try a heart-centered moment, deep eye contact, gratitude, service. Explore meditation to glimpse cosmic or non-dual awareness. Comment, "I'm at level and I sense there's more." Like this video if it resonated. Subscribe for more maps of consciousness, tools, guided journeys.